What's up, guys? It's Paul from Boosted Films, and we got a pretty easy how-to for you today on changing the cabin air filters on a 2003, 4, 5, or 6 Mitsubishi Lancer or Lancer Evolution. Now, these are both 2003s, and an interesting quirk with the 2003s is apparently all of them did not actually come with a cabin air filter. However, depending on the previous owner of your car, they may have actually installed one, which was my case here with the silver one. The silver car already had a cabin air filter installed, whereas my black one here has never had a cabin air filter installed yet. So that's what we're going to cover in this video. We'll go over how you could simply replace the cabin air filter in a car that already has one, and then we're also going to cover how you can install a brand new one, basically, if your car doesn't even currently have a cabin air filter. So let's jump into it. So you can certainly buy any cabin air filter that you want for this, but there were two that I used for each of these cars, and I'll just say that the TYC one did not come with any bolts or any screws, whereas this other Purolator one did. So if you happen to not have a cabin air filter yet installed in your car, just know that if you did get this Purolator one, it would come with the screws that you would need to insert your filter. So the first thing you're going to do in this job is just open up your passenger side door, and then we're going to slide our seat back and make some room if you need it. It may just help with this job. And then we're going to open up our glove box because the cabin air filter is located behind this glove box piece here. So we're going to look to the left side of the glove box. There is this one little protruding piece that keeps this glove box from falling out of place, and that just kind of snaps in there. So in order to unsnap it, we're just going to raise it up a little bit. We're going to lift up the glove box a little bit, get our finger behind that piece, kind of on the outside edge, and then pull it towards us, or pull it towards the dash of the car, towards the front, kind of just squeezing your finger down. And what that's going to do is just pop this piece loose. So again, kind of get your finger up toward this outside part here, lifting up a little bit, and then just pushing towards you, and then that should kind of just pop it out of place. It shouldn't require too much force, but there's a little bit just to pry it out, and you should just hear it pop out of place. And once it pops out of place, you will just slide it towards the inner part of the glove box and pull it out. So now the glove box is still held in place on the other side, closer to the passenger side of the car. But for this one, that piece that protrudes out is actually just kind of formed into the glove box itself. And all you need to do for this is kind of use the flexibility of the glove box, squeeze it over to the left side, pull it over, and then pull down at the same time. And you should be able to create enough room where it will just kind of slide down out of place. So this glove box, might be a bit more flexible than you think, so you should be able to bend it a little bit to then get it out. And once you do drop it down, you should be able to just pull your glove box off those hinges just by pulling it straight forward and getting it out of the way. So now you can see this is where the cabin air filter is located. The airflow direction is down, and then there are 4 screws on this one, but the only 2 that we need to do anything with to remove this cabin air filter is the upper leftmost screw and the bottom rightmost screw. And we're going to come back to this in just a second, but I'm going to cut now to a car that you may be facing when you're doing this, where you see this blank slate and there is currently no cabin air filter. So as you can see here, some sort of an X-Acto knife would be required, and then you would just need to cut along these lines to kind of cut out these pieces. So there's a thinner piece of plastic there where those lines are. So you just need something that you can put some force into and push and cut out along those pieces. It will then kind of break into 2 separate pieces, which I'll show in a little bit. This was certainly easier to do with 2 hands. However, to show you guys while I was actually cutting it, I tried to, do it with one hand while filming with the other. But what I would recommend is pretty much using 2 hands to kind of get some force. Once you initially push it through, it should cut through pretty well. And then use both of your hands to apply a good amount of force, and you should be able to just keep sliding it over as it cuts through this plastic. So of course you'll continue to cut all the way around this rectangular spot. But now you can see I did gently push on it. I didn't know what was going to happen here, but it breaks into 2 pieces kind of in that center piece. So here you can see that when I push it through a little bit, it separates in the middle, which is nice because that makes it easier to remove. So now we can just kind of swing these doors open, if you will, twist them around a little bit, and then we can pull out this plastic cover that was in place because there was no cabin air filter here. Don't know how much is true, just a bit of a fun backstory. What I heard is that they were just in a rush this year, this model year, to send these over, and they just skipped this part and didn't do this for the 2003s. But I'd be curious, if you have a 04, 05, or 06, let me know if for any reason you actually have this plate block off. That'd be very interesting to know. All right, so we're going to cut back to the other car, and if yours already had a cabin air filter installed, again, remove the 2 screws, the upper leftmost screw, and then the bottom rightmost screw. So just for example's sake here, this is actually the new filter that I'm installing, but I just wanted to show the procedures of this. The old air filter that was in here was actually installed incorrectly. It was upside down. As you can see, airflow is down on this one, as it is with most all of these. But the other one was somehow installed upside down, and it was really dirty, and I didn't even want to bother like putting it back in here to show you guys like the example of how it would look. We'll come back to that in a second. But so as you can see, you should be able to slide it right out. Your old one will probably look pretty dirty on the top. And you can see that bill piece in the back as well kind of sticks down. So we'll pay attention to that later. And this is the one that actually came out of the silver car. Just disgusting. So also, if your car kind of smells bad on the inside a little bit, it might be because of something like this. So something to look at changing. Again, hopefully you don't ever let it get this dirty. Or if it's this dirty, you'll be glad you're changing it. So here we are with our new cabin air filter. Again, for example's sake, showing you what I would typically do when I buy something new like this. I would compare it to the old one, assuming you had a car that had one installed. Just make sure it looks like it's the general same dimension, so you are not fighting some other battle where someone accidentally sent you the wrong part or anything like that. And what is nice about both of these ones, at least that I have here, they did actually say airflow direction. Be careful sometimes if it just has an arrow pointing up, that doesn't necessarily always mean airflow direction. And just another way to confirm with this one, if we look inside the heater part here, you can see like there's this protruding tab in the upper right. Like that is part of what would only allow you to kind of properly install this one way. So on the back part of these filters, it has the part that protrudes, and that part should be down. And again, back to the screws that you need for this. These are basically a 5x14 self-tapping screw. So if you didn't buy a kit that came with the screws, you should be able to find these fairly easily. They're not super uncommon. They don't even have to be a Phillips screw. It just has to be a self-tapping screw that's about the right length, and it should work for you. So again, here we are with our new cabin air filter. You can see the arrow pointing down and another note on there that says airflow down. And there's this little kind of duckbill protruding area towards the back. Again, we're going to pay attention to that as well. And when we slide in this new cabin air filter, that part is going to be down. So it should slide in pretty easy. I did know with this one, it seemed to have a little bit of resistance once it got right up to the edge. But another thing to make sure you're installing it correctly is this bottom right corner. You should see that little dot where it protrudes through. This particular cabin air filter only had, that little hole where that dot would protrude through on that bottom right. So that's another way to know you've installed this correctly and didn't install it upside down. So now that you actually have that cabin air filter pushed in place, we're just going to put these screws in. And what I did is I started one of the screws just so it was starting to go a little bit. And then just kind of a force of habit, I guess, I went and started the other screw. And then I just walked them in equally a little bit. So basically I went back and forth from the one to the bottom right to the one to the upper left, just so I knew I wasn't screwing it in really crooked for some reason and adding some odd resistance. But it's very minor. This isn't really anything you need to stress over when you're doing a job like this. It's okay. It's just a filter that you're putting in. So we're going to go ahead and tighten those up snugly. They don't have to be too tight, but if your filter is flat up against there, feels like it's not going to move, then you should have it set right. So now we just have to put our glove box back in place. We're going to lift that up, hook it on these hinges, and then go back to the right side and then squeeze in a little bit and lift up again to lift that up over the lip that it catches on. And of course, move over to the left side with this other piece, this clip that we took out, and we're just going to reinstall this clip. And for the most part, you're just going to go over to the left when you insert it and then up and away from you. So we're going to lift up the glove box a little bit and then push this piece in. Again, push it over kind of to the left. And then the clippy part, the part that actually goes in, is towards the back of the glove box. So then you just push it in and push it up away from you, and you should hear it clip in place. And there you go. You can see it's doing its job. And that's about it. Now you should be able to open and close your glove box. It should function the same as it did before you did this job. And that's it. You have successfully changed or even maybe added for the first time a cabin air filter to your Lancer or your Lancer Evolution. And if you watch a lot of my videos, you've probably heard me say this before, but really, I'm not an expert at all this stuff. I'm just a guy who likes to do things like this. I like to document processes that I do and try to cover all the details to help anyone out. But of course, everybody can be wrong sometimes, so please let me know if you think I did anything wrong or if there's something that could have been done better. Add to the conversation, add to the discussion, leave your comments, let me know. Check the comments if there are any, pertinent updates. They would probably be in the top comments or the video description here. As always, I do really appreciate everybody taking the time to watch my videos. Again, if you want to comment about anything, feel free, good or bad. We'll take all the comments here. Appreciate it. I appreciate everybody watching. And this is Paul from Boosted Films saying thanks so much for watching. Cabin air filter. The cabin air. This cabin air.